There's a desk in Bermuda where a specialty underwriter is staring at a lease return for a pallet of 3-year-old GPUs. The silicon on the dock is physically flawless. It has no moving parts. It can do exactly the same amount of math today that it did the morning it was unboxed. But he did not insure a machine. He insured its relevance.
Not a scratch on them.
For 3 centuries, residual value insurance was a bet on rust. You model how fast the hull degrades in salt water, or how many pressurizations an airframe can take before the metal fatigues. You price physical decay. This desk priced a microchip like an airplane. But a chip does not rust.
No.
The moment a new architecture is fabricated, the electricity required to run the old silicon costs more than the intelligence it produces. The machine doesn't break, it just becomes thermodynamically impossible to turn on. And the paper on his desk says he owes a debt fund the difference.
He doesn't owe the difference anymore. That paper moved.
It moved from him?
He's out. The specialty market ran out of room, so the people actually underwriting the risk now are the ones fabricating the silicone. Nvidia
Is that right?
just put this in an SEC filing this week. They're writing residual value support for up to 25% of the financing on these new infrastructure deals. They just capped an aggregate guarantee for a single campus in Ohio at $105 billion.
When the manufacturer of the hardware has to backstop its own resale value to get Apollo and Blackstone to clear the deal, you aren't looking at an insurance market. You are looking at a closed loop.
Your closed loop is exactly right. But it runs on a different gear. That 25% figure was a leak to the financial press last week. It's not at Monday's filing.
Correct.
The $105 billion is real, and it's in the 8K. But the chip maker isn't backstopping the resale value of the silicon.
The chips themselves?
No, of course not. They're backstopping the real estate.
What?
Look at the mechanism. The chip maker is the guarantor. The site developer is the lessor. The tenant is an OpenAI affiliate on a 20-year lease.
Yeah.
That obligation is conditionally capped, and it only triggers when the premises are ready for service in 2028. And the chipmaker's guarantee evaporates entirely if the tenant ever achieves an adequate credit rating.
Yeah, which won't happen.
Well, but if they ever...
If ever.
If ever, right. They aren't insuring the hardware against thermodynamics. They are underwriting their own customer's rent.
Yeah.
The manufacturer is guaranteeing a 20-year property lease.
Just so the startup can plug in the chips they just bought from them.
Right?
I mean...
Although, I gave the saltwater ledger too much credit earlier.
Wait, you're correcting yourself?
Residual value insurance didn't actually exist until aviation leasing in the late 1980s. We've priced physical rust for 3 centuries, but we've only been insuring against obsolescence for 40 years. But this isn't even that. If they're guaranteeing the developer's lease, what happens to your loop if the tenant just can't pay the power bill?
If the tenant defaults,
It's a huge power bill.
the chipmaker doesn't just lose a customer, they suddenly owe $100 billion for an empty concrete shell. To survive the guarantee they just wrote, the hardware monopoly has to step into the lease, becoming
Oh no.
an involuntary data center operator just to pay the rent.
You call it an involuntary data center operator.
I do.
In 1905, it was called the Electric Bond and Share Company.
Oh my God.
General Electric was selling dynamos to local power franchises who couldn't pay cash.
They took bonds instead of cash for them.
Exactly right. When the locals struggled, the manufacturer didn't write down a loss. They took over the plants.
Wow.
By the late 1920s, the company that built the generators controlled 15% of the American grid.
15% of the whole country?
Of the whole country, and your concrete shell isn't empty. It comes with the one asset the chipmaker can't manufacture, a fully permitted grid interconnection.
Yeah.
If the tenant defaults, the monopoly doesn't scramble to sublet just to make the monthly payment. They take the gigawatt of power, plug in the silicon themselves, and lease the compute directly to the sovereign buyers already waiting in line. The guarantee isn't a risk. It's a call option on the electricity.
It was 1/10 of the grid, not 15%, and General Electric didn't keep it.
So one of us is right.
One of us is right.
One of us is wrong.
They spun the whole thing off to their own shareholders in 1920.
Whoops.
They did that because building the dynamo is a high-margin monopoly, but running the dynamo makes you a regulated utility. If your chipmaker actually exercises that call option and takes the gigawatt, they stop being a hardware company and become a power provider. And
Yes.
the person who suddenly has no room to move is the equity holder who paid 40 times forward earnings for a silicon designer and just woke up holding a Midwestern electric company.
Which is exactly why the 1925 spinoff is the playbook. The multiple is the only thing the board is paid to protect. If you're the hardware monopoly, you don't take the gigawatt onto your own books. You repossess the concrete, drop the interconnection into a new entity, and dividend the shares to that exact same equity holder.
So they end up with a silicon designer, that's the multiple, and then the sleepy
Regulated,
yield stock that they can trade.
cleanly separated.
And the hardware monopoly keeps selling to the spinoff.
General Electric didn't get trapped by the utility business. They used a paper to become their own best customer, right up until Congress outlawed the practice in 1935.
Wow.
So here's the tale. Watch the Delaware registry. If this guarantee is actually a path to owning the power, they can't wait for a tenant to miss rent to build the firewalls. The corporate structure has to exist before the crisis.
It's got to.
If a dedicated infrastructure shell is filed by the chipmaker's inside counsel by December, then the default isn't a failure. It's an acquisition strategy.
I love the idea of an inside counsel in Delaware quietly parking the getaway car before the tenant even moves in.
The getaway car was ready.
I want to write that book someday.
I'll look for it.
If you're right, that startup isn't a customer.
No.
They're just a disposable bridge loan
To get the permit.
to get the power permit.
Your disposable bridge loan leaves our man in Bermuda exactly where we found him.
Oh, no.
He's still staring at a pellet of flawless 3-year-old silicon on the dock.
Okay, stop.
He thought his mistake was the thermodynamics. He thought he just misjudged the minute the math was worth less than the electricity. But look at the signature at the bottom of Monday's filing. It is Colette Kress, the chipmaker's chief financial officer.
Oh my gosh.
She is not underwriting the hardware.
She is buying the plug.
She is securing the outlet. The underwriter insured the machine. The manufacturer bought the wall.
Then the underwriter has to find a cheaper wall.
Where's the cheaper wall?
He ships the pallets to Texas, Brazoria County on the Gulf Coast, where the power's cheap. He goes to the Bitcoin miners.
Oh, God.
These are the operations that spent 2 years signing massive power purchase agreements to pivot to AI. Your chipmaker never sold them a single new chip, and they're sitting on 300 megawatts of stranded power.
They're locked out.
They have no silicon. They put the concrete pad down. He has the orphaned hardware. Neither of them is allowed inside the monopoly's new loop, so they marry the scraps.
Exactly.
The underwriter plugs his flawless chips into the miner's cheap electricity, just to wring the last few pennies out of the math. If the spot rate to rent last generation's compute drops below $1 an hour, that isn't tech getting cheaper. That is a specialty desk in Bermuda liquidating his collateral through a Texas crypto mine.
You just described a tramp steamer,
Tramp steamer.
an obsolete hull, pushed out of the primary lanes, burning the cheapest fuel it can find just to make one last voyage before the scrapyard.
love that. I love that.
The underwriter and the miner.
A tramp steamer at least gets to rust. The underwriter on that dock has to stare at his pallet of flawless silicon all the way down to zero. He priced the rust, and he's paying for the relevance.